I still remember the sound of the pen clicking in my son's hand, not shaking, not unsure, ready. He slid the papers across the dining table like it was nothing, like he wasn't asking his own father to sign away everything he'd built in 40 years. "Just sign here, Dad," he said, smiling. "It's only a formality." A formality. My daughter stood behind him, arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. My daughter-in-law leaned against the wall, scrolling on her phone, already bored as if my life was an inconvenience delaying her dinner plans. I looked down at the papers, legal words, cold words, words meant to confuse an old man. "Why does this say transfer of property?" I asked. My son sighed, annoyed. "You don't need to understand all that. The lawyer explained it already." That's when I knew. This wasn't about helping me. This wasn't about protection or planning. This was a setup. "You trust us, don't you?" My daughter finally said, her voice soft, too soft. "We're family. Family. The same family that stopped inviting me to dinners. The same family that laughed when I talked about my health. The same family that kept calling my house their future home." I picked up the pen. My son relaxed. My daughter smiled. My daughter-in-law finally looked up. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had already spoken to my lawyer that morning. They thought these papers would make them rich. They didn't realize I was about to erase them from my will. I signed, not the papers they wanted, but the ones that would change everything, because while they were busy trying to trick me into giving up my life's work, I was preparing to teach them the most expensive lesson of their lives. And they wouldn't see it coming, not until it was too late. I wasn't born into money. Everything I had, I earned with my hands, my back, and years of missed sleep. I started with a small repair shop when my children were still in school. Long days, short nights, I'd come home smelling like oil and dust, but I never complained, because every hour I worked, I believed I was building something for them. My son, Daniel, was the eldest, smart, confident, always asking questions about money even as a teenager. My daughter, Sarah, was quieter, emotional. She used to sit beside me while I balanced bills at the kitchen table and ask, "Are we okay, Dad?" "We're okay," I always told her. And we were. Over the years, that small shop turned into a business, then another, then property. The house we lived in, the one they now call too old-fashioned, was built with my own savings, brick by brick. Their mother passed away too early. Cancer doesn't care how hard you work. After she was gone, everything I did was for my kids. College fees, weddings, down payments. I never said no. When Daniel married Linda, I paid for most of it. When Sarah needed help after her divorce, I let her and her child move back in no rent, no questions. People told me I was being too generous. They'll forget what it took. My old friend Rashid warned me once. Children who don't struggle don't respect struggle. I laughed it off. These are my kids. I said, blood remembers. I was wrong. Slowly, things began to change. They stopped asking how I was. They started telling me what I should do. "Dad, you should think about the future." Daniel would say, "Your future," Sarah added. At first, I thought they cared, but there was something new in their eyes, not concern, calculation. And the first time I truly felt it, the first real crack, came the night I heard them talking about my house, as if I was already gone, and I was standing right there. It started with small things. My chair at the dining table was moved. My room was called temporary. My routines were treated like problems. "Dad, you're too old to handle stairs." Linda said one evening, smiling like she was helping, "Maybe you should move to the ground floor." The ground floor used to be storage, a cold room, no sunlight, no memories. "I'm fine where I am," I replied. Daniel frowned. "Why are you being difficult?" Difficult. In my own house, Sarah started bringing up nursing homes, not directly, never directly. "I heard this place is really nice," she said one afternoon, showing me pictures on her phone. "They have activities, people your age. Like I was already fading. Then came the conversations I wasn't meant to hear. One night I woke up thirsty and walked toward the kitchen. Their voices stopped me halfway down the hall. "If he signs the papers, everything becomes simple," Daniel whispered. "He won't read them," Linda replied. "He trusts us." Sarah's voice was quieter. "What if he changes his will?" Daniel laughed. "He won't. He's scared of being alone." That laugh stayed with me. I went back to my room without water, without sleep. That was the night I realized something painful. I wasn't a father to them anymore. I was an obstacle. Soon after, Daniel suggested we organize documents. Just planning. He said, in case something happens. Something already had. They brought up a lawyer, their lawyer, not mine, a man I'd never met, a man who talked fast and looked at his watch while I spoke. That's when I decided to make a call of my own, a call that would change the entire story. But before I could act, they made their move. The meeting was set for a Sunday afternoon. Family day. They cleared the table like it was a celebration. Tea, snacks, smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Daniel placed a folder in front of me. Dad, this will make things easier for everyone. He said, for everyone. I repeated. Linda stood behind him, nodding. Sarah sat quietly, not looking at me at all. I opened the folder, pages and pages of legal language. Transfer clauses, authority, control, you'll still live here, Daniel said quickly. Nothing changes. That's when I asked the question that changed the room. If nothing changes, I said slowly, why do you need my signature? Silence. Linda spoke first. You're being paranoid. Paranoid. I looked at my children, really looked at them. No warmth, no respect. Only impatience. They wanted this done. Now, that's when I told them something that made Daniel stiffen. I spoke to my own lawyer yesterday. I said, Sarah's head snapped up. Linda's smile froze. Daniel forced a laugh. That's unnecessary. No, I replied calmly. What's unnecessary is trying to rush me. I closed the folder. Their faces changed. The kindness vanished. The mask slipped. Dad. Daniel said sharply, don't make this hard. After everything I'd given, after every sacrifice, that was the moment I knew without doubt that if I signed their papers, I would lose everything, but they still believed I was cornered. They still believed fear would control me. They had no idea that the next signature I made would erase their names forever, and I hadn't even told them yet. After that Sunday, the atmosphere at home changed. It felt colder, heavier, like a storm brewing just beneath the surface. Daniel stopped calling as often. Sarah barely spoke to me unless it was about the papers. Linda was downright rude sometimes, acting like I was a nuisance rather than the father who had put food on their table all these years. I wasn't blind to their behavior. I felt it every time I sat alone in my old armchair, watching them whisper in the kitchen, stealing glances my way. They wanted me to be scared. They wanted me to crumble under their pressure and sign whatever they put in front of me. But I wasn't going down without a fight. One afternoon, Daniel cornered me in the living room. Dad, why are you making this so difficult? His voice was sharp, eyes cold. We just want to help you. You're making things worse for everyone. I looked at him, the son I raised, the boy who used to beg for my approval. Help by trying to steal my home. I said quietly, I'm not the one making things difficult. He scoffed. You don't understand. This is about planning for the future. The future you're planning for yourself, not me. I replied. He shook his head and walked away. That was the moment I realized the family I thought I knew had changed, or maybe they had been hiding their true selves all along. The pressure wasn't just from Daniel and Linda anymore. Sarah started to play her part in the game too, though she tried to hide it better. One afternoon, when I was helping with the groceries, she dropped a bombshell. We've been talking to the lawyer. She said casually, and if you don't sign those papers soon, everything might end up tied up in legal battles. It could take years to settle. I blinked. What lawyer? The one Daniel hired. He says it's better if you just sign the documents to avoid complications. I swallowed hard. They were lying. I had my own lawyer, the one I trusted, and I had a secret plan in motion, but they didn't know that yet. Sarah smiled sadly. We just want what's best for you, Dad. It hurt more than the lies. Because I knew the truth. They wanted the house, they wanted the business, they wanted control, not me. Days later, they gathered again. This time, the mood was more intense, more desperate. Daniel said, We're only asking for your signature once more. After this, we'll leave you alone. Linda added, Promise. Sarah nodded, biting her lip. I looked at the papers. This time, I was ready. I took a deep breath and signed, but not the papers they wanted. I signed a document removing them from my will. The shock on their faces was priceless. Wait, what? Daniel stammered. Linda's phone slipped from her hand. Sarah's eyes widened. I smiled, a slow, steady smile. You thought you were tricking me into handing over everything. I closed the folder firmly. But I was signing my final will, and you're not in it." Their faces fell. Greed turned into anger, disbelief, and finally panic. "I trusted you," Daniel said, voice breaking, "but you didn't respect me." I replied. And with that, I knew the game had changed. The day after I signed that document, I received a letter from my own lawyer, the one Daniel and Linda never wanted me to speak with. It wasn't just any letter. It was proof that I had done everything right. The letter detailed a secret will I had created years ago, hidden safely away, one that left the house and business to a charity, not to my children. I sat there, reading every line, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sorrow. Relief because I knew my estate was protected from their greed. Sorrow because the people who should have cared the most were now strangers in my own family. My hands trembled as I called my lawyer. "Yes," he said, voice steady, "they won't see it coming." That evening, I called Daniel and Sarah to the house. They came, each with their own mask of confidence and expectation. I placed the lawyer's letter on the table and watched as their faces turned pale. "This," I said quietly, "is the truth you never wanted to see." Daniel tried to grab the letter. "Dad, you don't mean this." But I did. "You wanted to take everything from me," I continued. "You wanted to erase my life's work with your signatures, but I was ready." Linda stood silent. Sarah looked away. For the first time in years, I saw the fear in their eyes, the fear of losing what they thought was guaranteed. From that moment, the dynamic shifted. I was no longer the helpless old man they could push around. I was the one holding the power. They tried to bargain, to plead, "Dad, let's talk." But I knew their words were empty. Respect isn't bought with empty promises. I had protected my legacy not just for me, but for the future that deserved honesty and trust. As they left that night, I felt a strange peace. I had won, not just a legal battle, but the battle for my dignity. And the lesson was clear. After revealing the hidden will, the atmosphere at home changed once again, but this time in my favor. I took back control, not just of the property or the business, but of my life. I stopped pretending to be powerless. I set new boundaries. No more unannounced visits from Daniel or Sarah demanding things. No more whispered conversations behind my back. I even changed the locks on the house. It wasn't about punishment, it was about respect. The respect they had forgotten to give me for so long. Of course, the fallout wasn't easy. Daniel lashed out, accusing me of tearing the family apart. Sarah refused to talk for weeks. Linda, well, she packed her things and left without a word. Friends and neighbors whispered, some taking sides, but I stood firm. I reminded myself why I did it. Because love without respect is just control disguised as care. Because blood ties don't guarantee loyalty. Because sometimes the hardest battles are the ones you fight at home. In the weeks that followed, I found peace in unexpected places. I reconnected with old friends who had always been there. I started volunteering at the charity that now owned the property, my way of turning betrayal into something meaningful. Most importantly, I learned that family isn't just who you're born to, it's who shows up when you need them. I'm not bitter. I'm wiser, and I'm stronger. Because respect matters more than money, and now they know it too. After the dust settled, I found myself alone in the quiet of my home, the same home that once echoed with laughter and promises. It was strange, the silence. No more whispered meetings behind closed doors. No more fake smiles hiding greed. Just me, the walls, and the memories of everything I'd built. At first, the loneliness hit hard. I sat by the window, staring at the garden my daughter once mocked, the very land I had poured my sweat into. It was theirs no longer, but the charity's, a place that would give back instead of take away. A strange comfort, I won't lie. There were nights I questioned everything. Did I do the right thing? Was I too harsh? Could I have saved my family by giving a little more, by trusting a little longer? But then I remembered the look on Daniel's face when I signed the will that erased their names, the cold calculation in Sarah's eyes when she pretended to care, the way Linda never even looked me in the eye after that. They had chosen greed over gratitude. They had treated me like a burden instead of a father, and I realized this. I wasn't broken. I was finally free. I learned that family isn't always defined by blood. Sometimes, the people closest to you can hurt the most, The very ones you build everything for can turn their backs, blinded by selfishness. But family can also be those who choose to stand by your side when it matters most, friends who visit without expectation, neighbors who check in, and strangers who offer kindness. I reconnected with old friends, people who had seen me through my hardest days, even before the wealth. We shared stories, laughter, and tears. With them, I felt the warmth that my so-called family had forgotten. The charity where I donated the property became more than just an organization to me. It became a place of healing, a symbol of hope rising from betrayal. Watching how that land was transformed to help others reminded me that legacy is not just about money or possessions, it's about the lives you touch. Looking back, I see how easy it is to mistake control for care. How the fear of losing what we have can make us blind to the people around us. How respect, that simple but powerful thing, is the foundation of all relationships. I want to tell everyone watching this story, respect matters more than money. Because when respect is gone, money can't buy it back. You can have all the wealth in the world, but if your loved ones don't really respect you, it's a hollow victory. My children learned that lesson the hard way. I hope you don't have to. Now, I wake up every morning with a new sense of purpose. I'm no longer living for their approval or their love. I'm living for myself, for the peace I've earned, and the future I'm still building. And if my story helps even one person avoid the pain I faced, it's worth telling. Because at the end of the day, life is about more than possessions or titles. It's about dignity. It's about love that's earned and given freely. And above all, it's about respect. Respect matters more than money, and now they know it too.